NFL history is littered with jaw-dropping seasons for the ages, with some of the league's finest etching their names into the history books forever. Fans have been treated to Kurt Warner's greatest show on turf in 1999, Peyton Manning's record-breaking 5,477-yard effort in 2013, Patrick Mahomes' breakout in 2018, and many more. But do any of them come close to Aaron Rodgers in 2020? Amid the controversy of Green Bay even drafting Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers responded with one of the most efficient, electrifying, and dominant seasons in NFL history. 2020, Aaron Rodgers had it all, from record-breaking stats to jaw-dropping highlight reel throws, and although it didn't end the way Aaron Rodgers did want it to end, it still is looked upon as one of the most efficient seasons in NFL history. And this is how he did it. Now, a common narrative in sports is that players perform better when they have that so-called chip on their shoulders. In many ways, no player in NFL history represents that better than Aaron Rodgers did in 2020.
This one aired out, Valdez Scantling, and he's got it! The midfield looking for a shot, Rodgers sending it deep downfield, and Lazard brings it in! Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it. Touchdown, Packers!
With a Super Bowl ring already in his possession, 2 first-team All-Pros, and 8 Pro Bowls on his resume, there was little doubt that he would one day end up in the Hall of Fame. However, that didn't stop the Green Bay Packers front office from surprising everyone in the 2020 NFL Draft. Having just posted a 13-3 season and made it to the NFC Championship game, the Packers were considered to be one of the teams to beat in the NFC. The problem is, though, with only Davante Adams standing out as a legitimate threat in the passing game, Aaron Rodgers and even many Packer fans believe that they were just one more weapon away from getting back to the top. Since Adams was drafted back in 2014, the Green Bay Packers had up to this point spent a grand total of just 1 draft pick on offensive talent inside either of the first 2 rounds, and it was very well known that Rodgers wanted some help.
Aaron Rodgers talking about how he was watching the draft, thinking that the Packers were going to take a receiver. And also, when they traded up, thinking that they were making the move to get a receiver.
It really came as a great shock, too, that therefore, instead of finding their quarterback the final piece of the puzzle he needed to get his team back to the Super Bowl, the front office instead shocked everyone and did this.
26th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State.
Love quarterback, Utah State.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Walk
I was
it
like,
off.
oh shoot, I'm gonna get on here. So I was sitting in the TV room at my house in Malibu, and I looked down at my phone, and my agent just texted me quarterback. And I was like, no fucking way. It happens. And I immediately got up off the couch and was super non-reactive, and I just went and poured myself some tequila and went back to the couch and knew that there was gonna be some interesting conversation that happened.
Jordan Love was considered a boom or bust quarterback prospect who would require some significant time to sit down and develop. In that sense too, really, you could argue that it did make sense. However, there were plenty of people, including myself, and I think just a lot of people in the community, that believed that the Packers up to this point were pretty much squandering any chance they had of getting back to the Super Bowl with the Super Bowl caliber roster they had on their hands. The parallels with how Aaron Rodgers himself entered the league as a backup to Brett Favre were significant, although Rodgers appeared to handle his relationship with his new backup a little bit better. And trust me, as we all know, it's definitely not Love's fault that he got drafted by the Packers when they did still have Aaron Rodgers. And they did have a good relationship while Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay, or while both of them were in Green Bay. But there was no doubt, and I don't blame him, there was no doubt that Aaron Rodgers was frustrated with this selection. He believed he still had plenty left in the tank, and more importantly, a roster that was ready to compete and lift another Lombardi trophy. By using their first-round draft pick on offense in 6 years to select a quarterback instead of a wide receiver, the Packers front office was sending a clear message that they didn't fully share their star quarterback's belief in the team's short-term potential. Instead, they were preparing for life after their future Hall of Famer. Now, just like every elite athlete does and should, Aaron Rodgers responded in the best way possible. With his newly selected replacement standing on the sidelines, Rodgers opened up the 2020 season with a bang, completing 72.7% of his pass attempts for 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions en route to a stunning 43-34 victory over the rival Minnesota Vikings. Any ideas that Rodgers was a declining talent were gone by the end of the second quarter.
And time running out in the first half. Rodgers is going deep for Valdez-Scantling. And he's got it! Into the end zone! Touchdown, Packers!
Oh, and don't worry, because he wasn't done there.
Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it! Touchdown, Packers! Rodgers. Lazard. And Alan Lazard has a Packer touchdown. 4 touchdown passes today for Aaron Rodgers.
This was clearly still Aaron Rodgers at his best, and the Packers front office might have just knowingly unleashed a beast. That hot start remained even hotter for the next 3 weeks. In week 2 against another division rival, the Detroit Lions, the Packers put up 42 points in a one-sided hammering before downing the Saints by 37-30 in week 3. Rodgers was playing absolutely pristine football, but somehow took things up a notch in week 4. With Davante Adams missing due to injury, Rodgers' top wideout on the day was MVS, and his second leading wide receiver was Darius Shepard, a sophomore who played a total of 2 years in the NFL. But that didn't deter Rodgers, who completed a season-high 81.8% of his passes for 327 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Surprisingly, it was the tight end Robert Tonyan who did most of the damage, bringing in 98 yards and a hat trick of touchdowns, with running backs Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones combining for 135 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. Great quarterbacks elevate their playmakers, and Aaron Rodgers certainly did that in their impressive 30-16 victory. After 4 weeks, Aaron Rodgers had thrown for 1,214 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, leading the Packers to a 4-0 record to start the season. He did finally appear a little bit mortal when completing under 50% of his passes and throwing 2 interceptions against a strong Buccaneers defense in week 6, but rebounded to throw 7 touchdowns across weeks 7 and 8, in which Green Bay defeated the Texans and lost to the Vikings. And look, by week 9, we all knew that Aaron Rodgers was having a legendary season in 2020, but the jaw-dropping plays this dude was doing just kept showing up.
Rodgers from 8 yards deep in the end zone, right down the middle of the field. And Adams somehow comes down with it.
Blitz coming. Rodgers fires, and that is a fantastic catch.
Again, a 4-man rush. Rodgers floating it for Adams, and he got it!
Against a 49er team that had just been to the Super Bowl, Rodgers absolutely toyed with his opponents, letting rip on 2 stunning deep touchdowns in the first half, first to Davante Adams and then to MVS.
The secondary has been really good. Here's one for Adams downfield, and a catch. Touchdown! Rodgers gonna air it out. There he is, Valdez-Scantling for the touchdown!
The 49ers could not get close to the veteran quarterback who looked as mobile, accurate, and as deadly as ever, and certainly not like a quarterback who had one eye on retirement. And look, for Jordan Love, you couldn't ask for a much better mentor. The kid got an up-close and personal look at quarterbacking of the highest degree, but he had to be wondering what it meant for his own career prospects at the time. After all, he clearly wasn't going to be taking the field anytime soon, as Rodgers had found a new lease of life, motivated to hit his new level by the arrival of his replacement. Aaron Rodgers was displaying his trademark creativity, regularly buying time in the pocket, and always making the right decisions. Just a flick of the wrist from Rodgers could send the ball deep down the sidelines with pinpoint accuracy, and his arm strength when throwing on the run was still elite. This was not your typical 37-year-old quarterback. A loss in Week 11 to the Colts gave the Packers a 7-3 record in a game where it did take overtime for Indianapolis to get the job done.
Valdez-Scantling falls out. Good snap, good hold. Colts win it in overtime.
But even then, Rodgers still managed to complete 71% of his passes for 311 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the loss. He got back to the winning ways in Week 12 though, downing the division rival Chicago Bears for the second time that year by 41 points to 25. Rodgers completed 72.4% of his passes for 211 yards, notching 4 passing touchdowns for the 5th time that year. It was that touchdown number 3 though that held the most significance, taking Rodgers past the 50,000 yard mark for his career, making him just the 11th player to do so.
You have to have an open mind to work together. Rodgers flips his hips, flips it downfield, wide open, Tunyon, touchdown, Packers.
Another milestone was passed 1 week later when Rodgers' 3rd touchdown in a win over Philadelphia took him to his 400th for his career.
First and goal, Green Bay. Quick toss left side. Devontae's got it. He gets by Slay to the pylon. Touchdown! Devontae Adams with a touchdown reception, and for Aaron Rodgers, his 400th career touchdown pass. He's the fastest to 400 in NFL history.
Rodgers completed 73.5% of his passes for 295 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day, kickstarting a superb month for both him and the Packers. I mean, even as we look around in the 2020 season, Drew Brees was also having an incredible season and propelling the New Orleans Saints to a 10-2 record. Green Bay did enter December as the 2nd seed in the NFC, essentially needing a perfect finish to earn that top spot. Luckily for them though, Rodgers was exactly that. In the final 5 games of the season, Aaron Rodgers threw 15 touchdowns and just 1 interception, winning every single game to give Green Bay a 13-3 record. This was good enough to win the Packers the NFC North and give them the #1 seed, in addition to crowning Rodgers the NFC Offensive Player of the Month for December. I mean, as we all do know though, he was of course much more than that, but that 5-game win streak to end the regular season wrapped up a simply sensational campaign by Rodgers, who led the league in completion rate with 70.7%, yielding 4,299 yards, 48 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions. It wasn't just league best that Aaron Rodgers was posting though. He was doing much more than that. His passer rating of 121.5 landed 2nd on the all-time single season leaderboard, behind only his own NFL record-setting season of 122.5 from 2011. And I mean, to put that in perspective, he threw a touchdown on a career-high 9.1% of his passes and an interception on just 0.9%. Like, whatever statistic you looked at, it was a completely outrageous effort by the Packers legend, confirming it was one of the greatest seasons we have ever seen from a quarterback and that we may ever see. And because of that too, it was therefore no surprise to see him win his 3rd MVP award. For all of this to go down immediately after the Green Bay Packers had drafted his replacement tells you all you need to know about the fight in Aaron Rodgers. While the individual accolades and strong season were great to see, a Super Bowl ring though is what Rodgers really needed and were after. And their 1 seed gave them the great advantage to make the most of it. Having lost in the NFC Championship game 1 year earlier, the pressure was on to deliver and not let this outrageous season go to waste.
In Green Bay, Wisconsin, divisional round of the NFC playoffs featuring the #1 defense in pro football, the Los Angeles Rams, the #1 scoring offense in pro football, the Green Bay Packers.
Rodgers picked up right where he left off, tossing 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions while adding a 3rd on the ground. Aaron Donald and a talented defensive line couldn't lay a hand on the elusive veteran, who danced around the pocket, not taking any sacks on the day, sharing his 296 yards through the air pretty evenly between his receivers, with 5 posting 25 yards or more. For the 2nd year running, Aaron Rodgers had led his team to the NFC Championship game, where another NFL great, Tom Brady, was waiting for him. Against the only defense that had held him scoreless during the regular season, Rodgers was at his brilliant best, completing 68.8% of his passes for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Again, he got everyone involved, finding 9 different receivers on that day, but it wasn't enough. 280 yards and 3 touchdowns from Tom Brady and 5 sacks from the defense did help Tampa Bay notch a 31-26 victory, sending them to the Super Bowl where they would defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, but everybody still questioned this one moment in history.
Kick it.
really surprised by that decision.
Hey, we got 3 timeouts.
I thought that they would go for it on 4th down.
A 26-yard field goal attempt. The kick by Crosby is up. It is good.
And while yes, we'll never know what would have happened if they did go for it on that 4th down, Rodgers had fallen just short of taking his team back to the Super Bowl once again. Instead, having to watch from the sofa and question whether another playmaker on either side of the ball could have helped them make it happen. Either way though, Aaron Rodgers' 2020 season was truly phenomenal. He took the selection of his replacement as the ultimate motivation to take his game to the next level, scorching the league in a way that many of the sport's best quarterbacks can only dream of. He absolutely deserved a Super Bowl ring for his efforts, but an MVP is still at least somewhat of a consolation prize and definitive proof that he still was at the peak of his powers. And after that 2020 season, surely Father Time was going to catch up to Aaron Rodgers.
2021 AP Most Valuable Player is Aaron Rodgers.